multiplying. The first one is just a straightforward where you have a term in front of a polynomial. In this case, it's called the distributive property, but I never teach it like that. I always call it the rainbow rule, where I would have a times b and then a times c. And in fact, what happens with the rainbow rule is that a is going to multiply anything in the bracket. So if there's a c, a d, e, it would multiply it. All right. Another one is where we can have a binomial times a binomial. So something in brackets like an a plus b times a c plus d. And in this case, I use something called FOIL. Again, different teachers use different names. FOIL is pretty standard, except it's an acronym that stands for, each letter stands for first, outside, inside, and last. So the first ones would be a times c. The outside ones would be a and d. You multiply them. The I would stand for the inside ones, which would be b and c. And then the L stands for the last ones. So that the last one here and the last one here would be b times d. So again, the FOIL just stands for, it's an acronym where every letter tells you which terms to multiply. Here's one that I see a lot of, that a lot of students don't know about. If you have something like a binomial squared, so you have two terms and they're squared, so I have a plus b squared. There is a shortcut to do it instead of writing it out like a plus b times a plus b. And the shortcut is that you square the first one, so a squared. Then you go 2 times b times a, which of course would be 2 times a times b. All right, and then you square the last term. So whatever term it was, like say a, b, well, it would be squared. All right, so there's the three different types of multiplying we're going to look at, and then we're going to extend them a little bit further for some more complicated situations. And so my first example here, I have 4x times this huge polynomial here. All right, so I'm going to first off take 4 and multiply it by, 4x and multiply it by 3x squared. And when I multiply polynomials, I multiply the numbers and I multiply the variables. So unlike adding and subtracting where the variable doesn't change, in multiplying it can change and most often does. And so, well, 4 times 3 is 12. And when I have x times x squared, I'm going to get x cubed. And again, that's power laws where we add the exponents, keep the base the same. Now I'm going to take 4x. This is why I call it the rainbow rule here. Might as well use some colors. Because I take the 4x and then I multiply it by the negative 2xy. And so 4 times negative 2 is a minus 8. X times x is x squared. And then I have the y there. All right, and then lastly, again, let's get colorful this morning. I take the 4x and I multiply it by the negative 5y squared. And well, 4 times negative 5 is 20, negative 20, sorry. I have an x there, and I have a y squared here. So the variables really didn't change on that one. All right, well, overall the variables changed, but we didn't combine any together. And then again, these are not like terms, so we can't put them together. They need to have the same variables and the same exponents, which doesn't happen here. All right, now in B, we'll do a different color here so it doesn't get mixed up. This is where I have a binomial times a binomial, so I'm going to use FOIL. And so I'm going to do the first ones. So 7x times negative 3x. That's going to be a negative 21x. And then I do the outside ones. So 7x times 4, which is a 28x. All right, FOIL, we got 2 more letters to do. The inside ones. So these two are in the inside, negative 8, negative 3x. Negative times a negative is going to give me a positive, which is 24x. And then the last ones, the L, negative 8 times 4 is going to give me a negative 32. And then, of course, I can go a little bit farther with polynomials. Anytime you can collect like terms, you do. And so I can put these x terms together. Oh, actually, there is several x terms, isn't there? 3 of them. So I got negative 21x plus 28x. So I'm up 7 x's. Then add it to 24x, I get 31x. And I got my minus 32. I copied that question down, right? Probably not. Oh, I know what I messed up. So I'm going to knew something was up. Right here, you got to watch this stuff. This is what can happen with polynomials. Is my first term was 7x times minus 3x. Should have been a negative 21x squared. So that can change my answer dramatically because now that negative 21x squared stays. I put my 2x terms together once again. I get a 52x. And again, my number is all by itself. All right. So now, the last one here. Again, this is in the form of a binomial squared where we have a plus b squared. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to move this down here so I have some room. All right, so again, you have to square the first term. So I take 3x and I square it. It means I got to square the 3 and square the x. Square the 3 and square the x. So my first term is 9x squared. And then the middle term, 2 times negative 5 times 3x. So if I have 2 times negative 5, that's negative 10 times 3x, I'm going to get negative 30x. We do it all at once. And then lastly, I square the last term, which is my b, which in this case is negative 5. And if I square negative 5, negative times a negative, I'm actually going to get a positive answer, and I'm going to get positive 25. All right, so that's some of the standard ones we can get, but now we're going to mix it up, take it to the next level. All right, so we'll get to the next one. Again, it's taking it up in the level here. So what do we got? We got x minus 4 times 5x plus 6 plus 3x plus 1 x times x minus 2. All right, there we go. Now, what we have here is 2 binomials times a binomial. So I got a binomial times a binomial here, so I'm going to use FOIL, and then I got a binomial times a binomial here, and I'm going to use FOIL. So before I do that, I'm going to separate these two. So I'm going to do FOIL twice. All right, so again, with FOIL, first ones, I have x times 5x. That's a 5x squared. Then I have x times 6. That's a 6x. All right, so that's the outside. Now the inside one, so I have negative 4 times 5x. That's a minus 20x. And then I have a negative 4 times a 6, which is a minus 24. All right, so there's one time I did FOIL. I got to do it again. All right, so the first one's 3x times x. 3x squared. Outside ones, 3x times a negative 2. Negative 6x. Inside ones, 1 times an x. 1x. And then lastly, the last ones, L. The 1 and the negative 2. I multiply them, I get a minus 2. All right, now I could collect like terms right now, or I could just write them all out. Again, we have addition of polynomials. So it's kind of tying in what we did this morning. So I can write them all out. So I'm going to start with my x squareds first. So I get a 5x squared plus a 3x squared. Now in the brackets, I'm just going to put these together here. I got a 6x and a minus 20x. That's a minus 14x. All right, and then I got a minus 6x and a plus 1x. Well, that's a minus 5x. So I took care of the x's. Now the number's minus 24 and a minus 2. There we go. Not done yet. Again, I've got to collect like terms. And that means putting my variables together that have the same variable and same exponent. So I'm going to have an 8x squared minus 19x minus 26. And then finally, that's it for me. I'm done there. All right. Now, let's see. What else we got here? I'm going to go with example 3b. Skip one over here. And so let's see here. So this is going to, again, step it up a little bit. All right, so the last one here, this is where we have something we haven't done before, which is an x plus 3 times 2x minus 1, and then an x minus 5. So I have a binomial times a binomial times a binomial. So the first thing I'm going to do is I do know how to do a binomial times a binomial. FOIL, we just did that, right? And so I'm going to do FOIL for the first two. And I'm just going to leave this x minus 5 on the side there for now. All right, so again, FOIL. First one's x times 2x. I have a 2x squared. X times -1, minus 1x. All right, inside ones, 3 times 2x, I have a positive 6x. And then I have a 3 times a -1, which is a minus 3. Now I'm going to simplify this polynomial. And so here's where I'm at. Now, here's where things take a little bit of, we step it up a little bit. In that I'm going to combine FOIL and the rainbow rule at the same time. And how I'm doing that is essentially what this is saying is I got to take 2x squared and multiply everything in that bracket by 2x squared. I got to take 5x and multiply everything in that bracket by 5x. And I got to take this minus 3 and multiply everything in that bracket by minus 3. And so I'm going to get 2 terms from multiplying 2x squared. I'm going to get 2 terms from multiplying 5x. And I'm going to get 2 terms from multiplying -3. Lots of terms. So in total, I'm going to get 6. So I'm going to take the 2x squared. I'm going to multiply x. And I'm going to multiply the -5. And so I get 2x cubed. And then I'm going to get a minus 10x squared. All right. That's one down. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the 5x. So let's see. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to take the 5x multiplied by the x. And I'm going to take the 5x to multiply it by the -5. And so I get plus 5x squared and minus 25x. All right. Now, the last term, the minus 3, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm running out of room here to do my colors. I can take the minus 3 and times by the x and the minus 3 times the 5. And so I get -3x plus 15. Negative times a negative there. All right. So that is the hard part. That's the expansion. And now, collecting like terms, wow, I'm lucky they're already written in order. That's great. And so I'm just putting them together. So I have this 2x cubed. I got no more of those. Putting my x squareds together, I'm going to get a minus 5x squared. Putting my x's together, I get a minus 28x. And then lastly, my number. And again, with polynomials, because none of these are like terms, that's it, I'm done. And I can't put them together. Because that's the only time you can add and subtract is you need like terms, opposed to multiplying where it doesn't matter.